the first game, developers have strived to have more and more content into their creations, shoving as many things to do as humanly possible within the time crunch of the development cycle. Games nowadays have the pleasure of DLC and updates you can directly download onto your game from the comfort of your couch. And for some gamers, that's a good thing, but for others, it can be very overwhelming and off-putting. For example, in Breath of the Wild, I found exploring lush jungles and dense forests to be exciting. In Tears of the Kingdom, it is tedious. The world is filled with so many hotspots and points of interest that it's almost overwhelming. The stimuli are completely everywhere, and it's hard to decide what to do or where to go next. There's something really special about Breath of the Wild's empty fields and barren forests. The empty dry mesas are some of the most enjoyable areas to explore. It feels real. It doesn't feel like a point of interest or a hole in the ground that needs exploring. It feels like you're actually in that part of Hyrule, taking a stroll down a real-world location. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that Tears of the Kingdom is a worse game, but you can't argue with the fact that it just feels different. Whereas Breath of the Wild can be described as relaxing, Tears of the Kingdom has a much more adventurous feel. And that's because Breath of the Wild is empty. And that's not a bad thing. There's something truly special about nature being nature. No bad guys to kill, no things to collect, no distractions. Just a simple waterfall flowing into a stream can add so many enjoyable memories for gamers. You can't even visit a forest in Tears of the Kingdom without being attacked by an apple-picking bokoblin or a frickin' walking tree thing. But it begs the question, is there such a thing as too much content? At what point does a game become overwhelming, especially to newcomers? And is there a solid logical point in which you should stop adding content to the current game? To answer this question, let's take a look at the world's best-selling game, Minecraft. Every year, Minecraft gets more and more features, shoving more and more content into the game. And while most players love the updates of Minecraft, there are a small niche group of gamers who prefer the older version. But why is that? Is it because they enjoy the simplicity of the earlier game of Minecraft? Is it because they genuinely dislike the new updates? While all of the above might be true, there is a deeper reason to this. One that is tied to the idea that there is a finite amount of content a game should have. Think about this. You're a developer at Mojang. You had the outstanding idea to make it so you need to collect 12 Eyes of Ender to go to the end. To do that, you need to kill around 12 Endermen, give or take.
What was that damage, my guy? Oh!
And roughly 6 blaze. This encourages exploration in the overworld at night, and the Nether. Now imagine this. A different developer comes along and makes it so villagers now sell Eyes of Ender, or piglins drop them, or whatever the case.
I see the problem.
Oh, do ya?
The problem here is that now there is no reason to fight an Enderman at all. They didn't give the Enderman a new item to drop, or another reason to kill it. It is now obsolete. A useless mob in newer versions. There are too many ways to obtain an item that is supposed to be rare and important. At this point, I feel the threshold of content is at the max. There would be no reason for one to exist with the other, because it just changes a pre-existing feature. And that was just a small example. The point is that, while this update may be great for some players, it ruins the feel for others. And with 20 plus main updates to the game, we now have a fanbase so divided that they can't decide what the feel of Minecraft is. Some prefer 1.1, some 1.12, and others 1.19, with no way to make all players happy at the same time. This is the reason some players prefer older versions of Minecraft. It's not because the updates are bad, it just simply changes the feel of what they believe the game should feel like. Another franchise that suffers from this is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
Sonic the Hedgehog series has divided the fanbase since 1998. But not because it's necessarily bad. That's another topic. The reason is that some prefer momentum, some prefer story, some prefer speed, some like multiple characters, and others just one character. The problem here is not that each individual game has too much content, but that each game in and of itself has divided the fanbase due to not knowing its audience and spreading random content throughout the titles. The Mario Brothers series of games do not have this big of an issue because they stuck with one premise: platforming. Every mainline Mario Brothers game, Mario Galaxy, Sunshine, or New Super Mario Bros. Wii, all share the same soul of the franchise. They mix it up with gimmicks, sure, but it's all centered around one idea: fun. Easy platforming anyone can jump into and play.
Easy? You call that easy?
And sticking with an ideal is important because when people see your video game character, the gameplay they enjoy comes to mind. When you switch it up, not only does it divide the fanbase, but it also confuses them. Imagine if the Spider-Man PS4 game, Miles Morales game, and the new Spider-Man 2 for PS5 game were all updates. It would be confusing and way too large of a game, but we're getting off topic a little here. To segue back into it, I'd like to bring up one final game in mind: LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. This game is filled to the brim with content. Well, except for the character creator, rest in peace. But the point being is that only 1/3 of the content, if that, is even story related. This game is filled with so many fetch quests, so many random tasks, and so many useless missions that it almost loses the charm the original had. And I believe that's why a lot of people struggle with games nowadays. Minecraft, Terraria, Starbound, lots of open world games have so much content it's extremely off-putting to new players. Because the last thing they want to do when they start a new game is pause, open up the Wikipedia, and figure out how to make a torch. It's tedious, and when the game itself doesn't even try hard to teach new players these things, it makes it hard to get into. Especially with 12 years of updates to back it up and fill it up. It's just confusing and way too overwhelming for newcomers. I hear you whispering at me, but games such as Portal 2 and Mario Maker 1 and 2 have level creators. What about those games? I'm glad you asked. Games like that are actually very small. Well, Portal 2 has a full-fledged game of its own. But Mario Maker is a very small game, if you remove the player content. But even the problem persists here. Once you've played 200, 300, 400 levels, you've pretty much played them all. At some point, it stops becoming content and just starts becoming repetition. So, to answer the question of the video, yes, there can be too much content in a game. Whether that be through multiple updates, DLC, or just sequels that don't share the same vision, it is hard to please every fan. And it is important to keep in mind that even if your game is 20 years old, there are still people playing it for the first time, and the last thing you want to do is confuse them, frustrate them, or make them open the internet to figure out how to progress. Is there a solution to this problem? Well, technically no, but it is important to keep in mind that your game is going to be played by many different people, and they each want a different thing out of it. I think the best thing that you can do as a developer is to choose quality over quantity. Nobody wants a 16-hour-long game filled with fetch quests, but a 5-hour super polished game could become a masterpiece. So just keep that in mind, future developers. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please let us know down below, and make sure to share it with your friends. Have a good day. Bye!